Hey guys, welcome back to another care video. In today's video, I'm going to show you to care for an orchid that I got a couple months ago from my friend Maria down in Florida. I didn't know how to care for it when I first got it, so I was waiting a little time to see how it went, and to my surprise, this orchid has been growing really nicely. It's known for its foliage, not really so much for its flowers, and it is beautiful. And this is the Jewel Orchid. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to care for this orchid and what I've learned in growing it in the last 6 months. It's roughly doubled in size, so I'm surprised to see how easy it's been to grow. And I'd say this is a good one for beginners. So if you want to learn more, as always, let's jump right in. So the Jewel Orchid. The Jewel Orchid is a terrestrial orchid. So unlike other orchids that are epiphytes, this one grows in the ground. It's typically low in the forest, so it doesn't get too much light, and it needs a little bit more moisture in its roots. So this orchid is typically potted in potting soil, well-draining potting soil, and not so much in bark, just because the roots need more moisture. I find this orchid very easy to grow. It's just getting so big so quickly. It's more than doubled in size since I've received it. And yeah, I've just been surprised. It's also starting to flower. It's not known for its flowers, but when I saw it starting to flower, I knew I wanted to make a care video for this one just because it's so easy and so nice. So this one is the Ludisia Discolor. This one has kind of black leaves, and they're very shimmery and sparkly. They have little streaks that are gold, and when you look at it up close, it's very, very beautiful. As I said, it's not known for the flower. The flower is not super showy. It's known mostly for the foliage. And some people actually cut off the spikes just because they prefer just to have the foliage. Either way, it's a really beautiful orchid. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a terrestrial orchid, so you want to put it in well-draining soil. This is in a potting mix with a ton of perlite in it. I'll probably have to repot it in the next couple of months. There's a lot of new shoots that are coming in, so this root ball is going to be quite... so I'm going to have to put some new media and get this in a bigger pot. But you want something well-draining that can hold moisture. With that said, this orchid does need quite a lot of moisture, so you just want it to be well draining. You don't want it to be soggy. You don't want something that's holding a ton of moisture. It just has to drain through, but because it doesn't have any storage units really within it, so you want to water it as it's approaching dryness, and you're going to be watering this orchid pretty regularly. The reason why this needs more moisture is because, as I said, it's a terrestrial orchid. It's growing in the forest floor instead of growing on trees, so it usually gets more moisture in general. In terms of light, you don't need a ton of light for this orchid. This just gets low indirect light. Anything that's on the ground is typically covered by lots of trees, so it gets little dappled sunlight. So low light levels are ideal. Anything that you give a phalaenopsis should work very well for this orchid. You want to avoid giving this orchid very high light, or it could scorch the little thin leaves. So as you're giving this orchid light, if you grow under LED lights like I do, I just put it, this is actually under moderate light. I don't have a low light section. Moderate light is fine, but I wouldn't put this with my cattleyas where I have very intense highlights. If you are growing on a windowsill, typically an east-facing window is just fine. If you are putting this in a north-facing window, that's okay, provided it's getting some indirect light. If you are growing this on a south or west-facing window, you want to make sure that there's a sheer curtain in there to make sure that it is not burning the leaves. So that's what I'd advise. If you're in Australia, of course, it's the opposite. You will have it in a south-facing window, and then the north-facing window you want to have more sheer coverage. You don't want this orchid to get bone dry because it does need its moisture, so you're gonna water it pretty regularly. But because it's not in bark, it's not like it's gonna dry super fast, so you could just play around with it. I water this twice a week and it's growing just fine. In terms of fertilizer, this orchid is a very light feeder. You don't have to fertilize it often. I give it MSU fertilizer, and you could just give it fertilizer 1 time per month, and that's totally fine. You don't have to go crazy with it. With regards to the temperature, you want this to be between 70 and 80 degrees. You wouldn't want this to go too much below about 65, 60 degrees. So this is more classified as a warm grower, I'd say. So with regards to the growth pattern on this orchid, it spreads. So it doesn't go straight up, it tends to spread to the side. And you just have to keep that in mind when you're potting it. It's gonna spread out. The leaves are so beautiful. When I first got it though, Zoe bit some of the leaves, so I had to move it, but new growths came in and it wasn't a problem. I just have to keep it away from my cat. This orchid is non-toxic, by the way, so there's no issue if your cat bites it or your dog. This flowers in the fall and the winter, and the flowers last, I was told, about a month. I don't detect any fragrance on it. They're not remarkable flowers, and like I said, it's a lot of people just cut the spike off so that the orchid could focus on just the foliage, which this is known for. This is just one type of jewel orchid. There's other types of jewel orchids that are out there. They're different, and I'll name them right here. But this one is the Ludisia Discolor. In all, I find this orchid very, very easy to grow. I was told that propagation is very easy. You just take a stem cutting, you could put it in soil, and you could put it in water, and then eventually it'll push roots in a couple of weeks, and then it'll start a new plant. So these tend to be quite expensive. I don't understand why when they propagate so easy. It's just like Hoya plants. Hoya plants tend to be very expensive, but those tend to propagate very easily as well. So I just don't understand it. But this was very popular, especially during the pandemic. I mean, can you blame it? It's so beautiful. You could treat this just like a house plant. So if you are new to orchids in general, you want to dip your toe, maybe you only grow Phalaenopsis or something like that, or you want your first orchid, this is a good option because you could treat it just like a house plant. And this one actually flowers. Again, it's not known for its flowers, it's known more for its foliage, which is nice, but this is still technically an orchid. My thoughts on this orchid: since getting it 6 months ago, I find it very easy to grow. I'm not having any trouble with it at all. Even though my cat ate some of the leaves, I just find that it's double in size. If you want to see the unboxing, you could check this out right here from when I first got it. But I'm impressed with this orchid. I thought a terrestrial orchid would be a little harder because it's different, but it's actually not. I just treat it like a regular houseplant. I water it as it's approaching dryness, and it's got a ton of new growths that are coming in. You can see one here, another one there, one in the back here. It's just growing quite nicely. We have another one coming in right here. So this is very vigorous. So I think I'm gonna be potting it up this spring into a larger clay pot. It's gonna spread, but I want something heavy, so I'll probably put it in clay just for that so it doesn't topple over. And I think it's gonna be happy. Let me know down below if you have any jewel orchids, what you do with the flowers. You cut the spike off or do you keep it? It's obviously up to you. 6 months to seeing blooms was pretty nice. The first flower just opened yesterday. So it's nothing crazy. It's cute though. I think it's nice. But I really like this orchid. So if you are a beginner grower, I think this is a good one. Treat it like a plant. It's technically an orchid and it'll grow well for you. It's actually easier. If you're new to orchids, you'll find that this is easier than even a Phalaenopsis orchid just because the care isn't very much different from regular houseplants. You just don't want this to dry out for excessive periods of time. Let me know your thoughts down below if you have this orchid, how big it is, how easy you found it to grow, or how difficult. I classify this as an easy one just because I had no problems getting it to grow, and I find it so vigorous. Next steps for me this spring, I'm gonna repot it, I'm gonna propagate it and give a piece to my mom, and I'll make a shorts video as I propagate it so you guys could see the progress. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.